Hello everyone, it's Mariners Fanatic, and today I will be doing a video on who we are losing or could potentially lose to free agency heading into the 2020 offseason. Starting off real quick with a couple players who have already declared free agency. The first one being Matt Andriese. This happened right before actually the last game of the season, so technically he's already gone. Andriese, he's a veteran reliever. Started the year with Boston, did not do super well. They designated him, and the Mariners were able to pick him up. And he actually pitched decently well for the Mariners. 2.45 ERA, 1.81 FIP, and 11 innings pitched. Obviously, it's a small sample size, and a lot of his innings were kind of in garbage time, essentially, in games where we are already winning or losing. But another team may find him useful, and I wish Matt Andriese the best. Next up, we have Jose Marmolejos. He was acquired through trade back in 2019 with the Nationals. Played with us for most of the 2020 season. He was a below average hitter, but for what we got out of him, wasn't too bad. This year, however, was not very good. Did not start off great, got sent back to AAA, tore up AAA, absolutely tore it up. Then came back and did not perform at all. On the year with us, he batted 160 with 4 home runs and 12 RBIs in about 35 games, I believe. Obviously, batting average isn't everything, but on the flip side of that, he batted 338 at AAA with 26 home runs and 75 RBIs. Marmolejos has proven that he can hit at the minor league level, but so far it is not translating to the MLB level. He elected for free agency and will likely get picked up by a rebuilding club or a team willing to take a flyer on him. So I wish him all the best, but he's not going to be a Mariner going forward. Next up, we have 4 relief arms to take a look at. The first one being Sean Doolittle. He was DFA'd by the Reds midseason, and we picked him up. He had a 4.76 ERA and a 3.79 FIP and 11.1 innings pitched. There is a possibility we could look at bringing him back since we do need a lefty in the pen. But if we did, it would probably be on like a 1 year, $1 million, very cheap 1 year contract. Next up, we have another lefty in the pen, Hector Santiago. Santiago actually pitched fairly well for us, 3.42 ERA, 3.13 FIP in 26.1 innings pitched. However, he was victimized by the foreign substance policy that was put into place this year and was placed on suspension, and then he followed that up a few weeks later with a PED suspension. So ultimately, Santiago proved that he can pitch in the big leagues again, but given the foreign substance and PED suspensions, I'm not really sure I would want to bring him back. However, that is a lefty option in the pen, so if we just hand him a 1 year, $600K contract, then that might be something we have to shoot for, or at least give him another flyer. Next up, we've got Robert Duggar. Got him back from the Marlins. Originally, we traded him to the Marlins in the D. Gordon trade, and we reacquired him over the offseason. Things did not go super well for Duggar. Similar to Marmolejos, he pitched decently well in AAA, but with the big league club, he pitched to a 7.36 ERA, 25.2 innings pitched, and he also had a 5.23 FIP. So overall was not pitching very well in his time in Seattle, and there's not much of a chance for him coming back. Lastly, out of this group of relievers is Keenan Middleton. Middleton was a former Jerry Dipoto pick back when he was with the Angels, and they thought they would give him a shot this year. Early on, Key looked to be pitching fairly well. He pitched to 31 innings, 4.94 ERA, and a 4.49 FIP. Middleton definitely has great stuff, but the lack of control was the biggest factor, and I think his performance. Someone will definitely still pick him up as he's a solid flyer option, and who knows, maybe he can make something out of himself either with the Mariners or another club. I doubt we re-sign him, but that is an option. Next up, we have a couple starters who are hitting free agency, the first one being Tyler Anderson. We acquired Anderson at the trade deadline from the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was 2-3 with a 4.81 ERA in 13 starts with the club and 63.2 innings pitched and a 4.52 FIP. And those numbers are actually severely inflated because he had 13 starts with us, and only in 3 of those starts did he give up 4 or more runs. He gave up 4 runs to the Astros in a start, 4 runs in the final game of the season against the Angels, and then 9 runs in a very, very short 2-inning outing against the Angels a week prior. Overall, Anderson was pretty stable for us in the back half of the season and really helped us out make that push towards the wild card. Unfortunately, his 2 worst starts happened to be in the last week of the season when it mattered the most. There is a shot we could bring Tyler Anderson back. He was only making $2.5 million this year, and a contract for next season would probably be looking about in that $3 to $4 or $5 million range, which is not very much on a 1-year contract. However, I personally don't see us picking him up, but that is always an option in the back of our pocket. Next, we have James Paxton. Unfortunately, Paxton went down at the start of the season with Tommy John. He looked amazing in spring training and in that first inning that he pitched. Unfortunately, things just didn't go his way as he's had a rough injury history in his career. He was making $8.5 million this season, though it is not likely that we bring him back and give him another shot. As a longtime fan, I would love to see him back. Maybe if we just cut that contract in half and gave him 4, maybe up to as much as 5 with incentives in a 1-year contract, I would probably still do that. But at the same time, with where we're headed, I don't see us picking up Paxton. Moving on to our last 2 players for this video. Both Kyle Seager and Yusei Kikuchi are likely not going to be on the club next year in 2022. However, there are options for where they would be on the club in 2022, so that's why they're at the end of this video, as everybody else on this list previously is heading towards free agency. Seager reached his incentive benchmarks in his contract that pushed his original $18 million contract to a $20 million contract for next year, or a $2 million buyout. So the baseline originally was $18 million, no buyout, but then as he performed more, those incentives went up, ultimately pushing his option for next year all the way up to $20 million with that $2 million buyout. If I'm GM, I am 100% going with the $2 million buyout. I love Seager, a Mariner for 10 years that did a lot of great things for this organization. However, the amount of home runs he hit this year doesn't really mean a whole lot with how low his batting average was, and he wasn't producing at the same level as he has been when he was hitting less home runs. Seager is 33, so he's not super old yet, but he's starting to get up there, and if I had my way, I would rather spend $20 million on Chris Bryant, who is 29 years old, or trade for Jose Ramirez or sign Marcus Semien, another option. There is more talent for either lesser or equal price out on the market right now, and at this point we are pushing for the playoffs and a potential World Series in the next few seasons, and we can't afford to hold on to someone for the sake of them being a long-time player. Seager was obviously a great leader in the clubhouse, but at the end of the day, I think it's time to move on from Kyle Seager. The last player to talk about is Yusei Kikuchi. Kikuchi was looking like he was going to earn that contract extension heading into the All-Star break. He was having a very solid season, but after the break, things did not go his way, and by the last couple weeks of the season, he had been benched and moved to the bullpen. Kikuchi has a 4-year, $66 million extension for 22 to 25, and this is a team option, and I see a 0% chance of us picking up that option, as it would have to be picked up as a whole, and they are not yearly options. It has to be done all at one time and can't be separated. Kikuchi's performance over these last 3 years has been disappointing to say the least, and he is definitely not worth that 4-year, $66 million extension. On the other hand, he has a $13 million player option for 2022. And this is what a lot of people don't know. From what I have seen so far, people are assuming that Kikuchi is gone already. There is a shot that he could choose to exercise that player option, and then he is a Mariner for 2022. It's guaranteed money for him, essentially. However, he has to exercise this option within 5 days after the World Series. World Series is likely to end around the start of November, depending on how each playoff series goes. So he has roughly about 3 weeks to make a decision on whether he wants to exercise his player option or not. Now, the starting pitching market is going to be pretty hotly contested this offseason. I can't exactly put a number on what he would get in the open market from other teams. Personally, I feel like it would be hard for him to find anything much better than that $13 million a year price point. However, he would very likely be able to find a multi-year deal from somebody. Maybe a change of scenery helps him out. Who knows? All that to say that Kikuchi is likely gone, but could be here for next year, depending on what he wants to do with his player option. So there you have it, guys. That is a look at who we are likely or potentially losing heading into the 2022 offseason and into next season. We aren't losing too much, but with some of these players, we are potentially wiping off a lot of money off the books. So this is definitely something you want to pay attention to in the coming weeks and months. Jerry Dipoto has already said that they are going to be active and aggressive at the start of the offseason come November. I will continue to try and push out content weekly or bi-weekly as much as I can. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Raiders Fanatic, out.